Today on the official Marvel podcast, we're sitting down with Marvel Studios production and development executive Mary Livanos as we chat about the upcoming Marvel television series Agatha All Along.
This show is a celebration of Agatha, and it's a deconstruction of villainy. It's a celebration of women, of witches, of all kinds, and there's a witch in all of us.
Plus, we revisit Marvel Studios' WandaVision for a quick recap and check-in on all your favorite Westview residents.
That's not all. We're also breaking down Agatha Harkness's 5 most impactful comic book moments with Marvel Comics editor Alanna Smith.
She looks very witchy, and she's in a spooky house, and she has a black cat. And it's kind of a Mary Poppins vibe, a little bit, I feel like.
I'm Nick Carrillo.
And I'm Anthony Carboni.
And this is the official Marvel podcast. Okay, Anthony, because of our topic for this week, I gotta ask, on a scale from 1 to 10, how witchy would you say you are?
Okay, well, define witchy. Like, are you asking to see my birth chart? Because I have one. I need it for dating apps.
No, I don't need to see that. I don't need your, social security number in birth astrology moon chart. I'm just thinking more like, are you burning sage? Do you collect crystals? Do you fly on a broom at night? Do you wear cool hats with pointy ends?
Yes to any pointy clothing. Just the more points, the better. But I think I think I am a little bit psychic because I have the ability to pick the worst line to get into or the worst lane of traffic 100% of the time.
Okay.
That's a psychic ability, yeah?
Yeah, I would consider that a psychic ability. Well, our guest this week believes there's a little witchiness in all of us. Mary Livanos is the Marvel Studios production and development executive on Marvel Television's Agatha All Along. And she joins our friend and fellow Marvel official podcast co-host, Ray Lowe, to chat about all things Agatha.
Mary, this is not your first project with Marvel. In fact, you're a pro. So give us a little bit about your extensive career with Marvel Studios.
For sure. So my career with Marvel Studios started over 10 years ago now, which is wild. I was a huge Marvel fan growing up, and my sophomore year of college, I was lucky enough to actually score an internship at Marvel Studios, and I conducted research and development and break down comics, and conducted research that was collected for the first Avengers movie, Guardians of the Galaxy 1, and Doctor Strange, in addition to tidying up the kitchen and delivering the mail and working Comic-Con, selling DVD box sets, which was a total blast. Several years later, I graduated from USC and had begun work in the industry when I got the chance to interview and return full-time, which I had made known was my absolute dream. And so when I got the gig, I moved out right away to Atlanta and became a manager of production and development for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and then grew in my capacity to become a production and development executive on Captain Marvel. It was already an opportunity of a lifetime, and then I was assigned to the untitled Scarlet Witch and Vision project for Disney Plus as my first solo project and creative lead as a co-exec producer. After that incredible experience, I served as executive producer for The Marvels and now Agatha All Along.
Your DNA it's fully embedded in Marvel. So how did your previous experience as an exec on WandaVision shape your approach on Agatha All Along?
Our process on WandaVision absolutely shaped our approach to Agatha. First, we were lucky enough to have the wonderful Jack Schaefer and many of our writers from the WandaVision broom returning, plus some incredible new voices. And what was so great about WandaVision was that it had this sort of puzzle box design that took several episodes to unpack and figure out the truth of what was really going on. And we loved that the stakes weren't world or universe ending, but instead were just incredibly impactful and significant to our main characters and the people their stories touched. So we've strived to do that again with Agatha.
Yeah, I feel like you guys succeeded in creating an almost buddy show with all of the ensemble characters who are coming in and out of this, right? Like that added to the sitcom element. And I know with Agatha, we're also assembling a cast. Actually, we're assembling a coven of the show. And it's such an iconic cast. I mean, what was it like getting to put that team together?
So it was Jack Schaefer's notion that really the crux of and the dilemma of the series is that Agatha has to coven up with a group of witches in order to try and get her power back. But Agatha's worst nightmare is having to be in a coven. She's a covenless witch. She's a liar.
Yeah.
She's a survivor. She's a woman who's out on her own. And so to coven up with a bunch of down and out witches is sort of worst case scenario for her. And so in our witch lore, we say that within a relatively small radius, there are fated to be enough witchy people to form a coven. And in that case, our coven becomes Catherine Hahn, Agatha, Jen, Sashir Zameda, Alice Wu Gulliver, played by Ali Ahn, and Patty Lapone, who plays Lilia Calderu. Over the course of the show, we will come to understand how each of these witches are down and out and why they agreed to embark on the journey of the Witch's Road. And then I must spoil that the party may or may not be crashed by Aubrey Plaza's character, whose name is Rio Vidal.
I led us ahead a little bit, right? I'm already talking about this coven team, but we can't deny that the show is called Agatha All Along. So let's bring it right back to Catherine Hahn really quickly. In WandaVision, she was cast as Agnes. I have to know, did you already have the series in mind when you were doing that casting?
We did not. We wanted Agatha to be a part of WandaVision because Agatha is a great part of the Scarlet Witch's backstory. But as folks now know, Agatha's a relatively obscure character from the comics, and we were really desperate to find the perfect Agatha for WandaVision. And luckily enough, Catherine Hahn had just been coming in to meet for a general meeting with Luis D'Esposito, and I was asked to join just offhand. And what's really cool is that this show, Agatha All Along, is the first Marvel project to star a character that never had their own titular comic book series with Marvel Comics. So it's very surreal and very cool.
That's incredible. It just shows how the comics are informing all this, and now vice versa too. I imagine that Catherine's personality had to have a large hand in making that decision and kind of making Agatha what she is, right? What was it like to be kind of around her with that character ideation and process?
Catherine absolutely made Agatha all her own. And I think her enthusiasm and love for the character is what really elicited that incredible fan response to Agatha in WandaVision. And it's really hats off to Hahn. She's the reason why we were able to do Agatha All Along and continue her story.
So I know you have been a fan of Marvel Comics for so long. Were there any particular comic runs or editions that you reference as a part of the creation of almost all of these Agatha All Along characters or plot lines?
Well, when starting any new project, I like to make it a point to read all appearances that I can get my hands on of the characters that we're dealing with. Of course, Scarlet Witch Volume 1, The Witch's Road, Agatha's early Fantastic Four appearances, the 1985 and 86 runs of Vision and Scarlet Witch are among many, many others that were all quite additive to our imagining and creation of this wholly original Agatha series.
What was different? Because these stories tie in a lot, and I can kind of tell that in a way what you're saying, maybe we're not so done with WandaVision or this Witch World yet. What was different about working on this sequel or spin-off than working on WandaVision?
What's more indifferent to Agatha beyond WandaVision is that by nature, Agatha is a liar. She's a classical villain, and therefore the show is able to take insane and unexpected twists and turns and hit a variety of tones like WandaVision that will keep audiences guessing. Also, what's more is the design of the show. We wanted to give the audience the same sort of nostalgic hit that WandaVision did with its nods to decades of sitcoms. But this time around, we are hearkening back to the golden age of Hollywood fantasy and horror with almost an entirely practical in-camera approach, emphasizing craftsmanship with backdrops, miniatures, special effects, makeup effects, and creature effects.
Actually, tell me a little bit about that part of the production, because we've heard that so many of the special effects were done practically on this set.
It was incredible with so many fantastical elements in a story like this, so many fantasy locations, horror locations. Getting as many of the visuals as possible in camera really grounds the adventure and helps us process what we're seeing as real. It's in value in bridging the gap between fantasy and reality and really helps put the cast and the crew in the right headspace as well. It's really exhilarating to pull off some real magic tricks to go along with the illusions.
I love that though, because I feel like one of everyone's favorite episodes from WandaVision was that nostalgic Halloween episode. And it just feels like this is giving the fans everything they want. We're just getting pure Halloween and witch now.
It really is.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I imagine music is also playing a massive part in this series. I mean, what launched Agatha All Along in fans' hearts was probably that little Agatha All Along jingle. So how did something that is kind of a darker tone, how did the Ballad of the Witch's Road come to be?
We were determined to partner once again with Bobby Lopez and Kristen Anderson Lopez, who created all the wonderful theme songs for WandaVision and now have created the Ballad of the Witch's Road for Agatha All Along. And for quick reference, for those who don't know, they are Disney literal legends. They penned Let It Go for Frozen. And of course, Jack was determined to find a way to really collaborate, and find a way to weave whatever song they were to imagine within the narrative of the show. So the Ballad of the Witch's Road, we come to find, is an ancient tune that all witches know, and I'm excited for audiences to learn more about it. But needless to say, Bobby and Kristen's work within this narrative only ups the ante.
I love the merging of the Disney family. I mean, creators all abound. So what, if you could pick one thing, one emotion, one takeaway that you hope the audience really retains from this series, what would that be?
I don't know that I could pick just one, but what I would say is that this show is a celebration of Agatha, and it's a deconstruction of villainy. It's a celebration of women, of witches, of all kinds, and there's a witch in all of us.
Okay, well, you just said there's a little witch in all of us, so I have to know, how witchy are you?
What a question. I am a bit of a witch myself. Actually, it's funny to recall back when I interned at Marvel. At the time, I was learning how to read tarot cards, which then actually came in quite handy during this production. I won't get too much into it. It's a bit of a spoiler, but there are some tarot cards, and it was fun to bring some of my knowledge to this project.
Well, Mary, is there anything else you would like to say directly to our fans?
Absolutely. Witches, it's time to gather. We have loved making this show for you and hope you have the time of your lives watching, crying, cackling your way through this series all throughout the Halloween season. And as they say, hags, have a great summer and see you guys in the fall. The first 2 episodes of Agatha All Along premieres on Disney Plus September 18th.
You know, Anthony, I knew that we would be getting some exciting updates from Mary Livanos about Agatha All Along this week. So I thought, hey, why not do a rewatch of WandaVision? Because I realized I hadn't seen it since it came out in 2021. And I got to tell you, it still got me. I teared up a couple of times.
Oh, there are some absolutely emotional moments in that show. And I honestly, I have to tell you, I think it's one of my top 3 anythings in the MCU. I love WandaVision so much. And it's a great rewatch because especially when you know the big twist of everything and you go back and watch again, you can catch all these little clues, you know, not just from Agatha, but from all of Wanda's neighbors, little background details. It's really fun.
Yeah, I remember that when I first watched it, I was blown away. And it was so cool to revisit it for that exact reason, to catch all those things. And I couldn't believe how it was like I was watching for the first time, but also catching all these new things. It was incredible. Now, if you haven't seen WandaVision and don't know the twists and turns yet, we are absolutely about to talk about it. So until you're able to watch it or rewatch it, feel free to skip this segment and revisit it later to not get spoiled. Okay, so in WandaVision, Wanda Maximoff comes to the town of Westview to create a reality where she can live happily with Vision, the late love of her life. She creates a version of him from her memories, and she controls the town and everyone in it to manufacture a TV sitcom version of their life together. Little does Wanda know, a dangerous witch named Agatha Harkness is posing as her nosy next-door neighbor. The whole plot is ultimately setting up the Wanda versus Agatha standoff at the end of the series, but both of these witches have been controlling the residents of a poor New Jersey town that never asked for any of this to happen. And while the series leaves us uncertain about the future or long-lasting effects of Wanda's hex on Westview, we want to make sure those that suffered are not forgotten. We'll start with the nosiest neighbor of them all, Agnes, played by Kathryn Hahn. Agnes pops up all over town with advice, questions, and jokes about her lazy husband Ralph before the big reveal that she's actually a powerful witch named Agatha Harkness. It turns out she was never under Wanda's influence. Wanda had no idea, and honestly, neither did I.
Wanda. You didn't think you were the only magical girl in town, did you?
Agatha Harkness was rejected by her coven in 1693 for practicing dark magic. When her fellow witches tried to destroy her, she killed them. All of them, including her own mother. When she sensed the complicated hex coming from Westview, she traveled there to find out more about Wanda and posed as one of her neighbors.
Who's been messing up everything?
It's been Agatha all along.
Wanda's other neighbors are all just regular people who live in Westview and are trapped in the hex she's using to manage her grief. There's Vision's work friend, Norm, played by Asif Ali. He's a friendly, upbeat, single guy on the neighborhood watch, and he doesn't know a single thing about computers.
So you're telling me this is a typewriter, a Rolodex, and a calendar all in one? What else can it do? Find me a wife?
There's Miss Hart, who's played by familiar sitcom face Deborah Jo Rupp. She's married to Vision's boss and comes over to Wanda's house for dinner in the very first episode. She's very sweet with Wanda, if a little nosy.
So, where did you two move from? What brought you here? How long have you been married? And why don't you have children yet?
There's Dennis, the mailman, played by Amos Glick, who we later see driving deliveries for a company called Presto. Before the hex, Dennis was Westview's pizza delivery worker.
Don't shoot, I'm just a messenger.
Pew, pew.
Another neighbor we see pretty often is Herb, played by David A. Payton. He lives next door to Wanda, and he's on the neighborhood watch as well. During the Halloween episode, while he's on patrol, he says this.
Is there something I can do for you, Wanda? Do you want something changed?
It's about as close as any of the neighbors get to acknowledging Wanda's control over the whole town. Our next neighbor is one of the first people in town who really challenges Wanda. That's Dottie Jones, played by Emma Caulfield. She's the leader of the talent show committee and the queen bee of the Westview set. She has no trouble telling Wanda what she thinks of her.
I've heard things about you. You and your husband.
We later find out that this character's real name is Sarah when Agatha breaks Wanda's control over her.
Wanda,
Dottie.
my name is Sarah. I have a daughter. She's 8. Maybe she could be friends with your boys. If you like that storyline. Or the school bully even. Really anything.
Speaking of Wanda and Vision's boys, let's get into that. Early in the series, Wanda goes from realizing she's pregnant to giving birth to twins in just a few hours.
Just kind of taken us by surprise, just kind of suddenly, quite suddenly, wasn't it? I mean, practically overnight. I mean, how did this happen?
Wanda and Vision named the boys Billy and Tommy and almost immediately watched them go from diapers to toddlers and right to early adolescence. They're somehow 10 years old in a matter of days and quickly start to discover that they too have superpowers. Billy can manipulate objects and people using only his mind. He also has telepathic powers. At one point, he can sense Vision is in danger from the other side of town.
I hear Dad in my head. He's in trouble.
Tommy's power is a little more straightforward. Super speed, just like his uncle Pietro.
Right on, little dude! Chip off the old Maximoff block, you got super speed!
I do?
Yeah!
And if you're thinking, wait, I thought Pietro was dead. You're right. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, Wanda had a twin brother named Pietro called Quicksilver for his superhuman speed. The real Pietro dies long before Wanda ever moves to Westview, but Agatha hires an imposter to impersonate him in an attempt to gather information about who Wanda is and how she cast the hex. The real-life actor who plays this fake Pietro in WandaVision is actually kind of a cool Easter egg for fans.
Hey, it's cool. I know I look different.
Why do you look different?
You tell me.
In the series, Pietro shows up on Wanda's doorstep, played by Evan Peters. What's fun about this is that Evan played Quicksilver in 3 X-Men movies outside the MCU. He was in the X-Men Days of Future Past, X-Men Apocalypse, and the most recent X-Men Dark Phoenix from 2019. Here he plays Ralph Boner, an actor under Agatha's control posing as Pietro. Remember how we mentioned Agnes's husband, Ralph? Turns out she was talking about this lackey the whole time. Pietro, Ralph, whoever he is, he doesn't really get anything out of Wanda. The hex came from her grief, and at least at the beginning, she didn't do it on purpose. She believes that the people in town are safe and protected and that her control isn't hurting them. Maybe it's even helping them?
You've handled the ethical considerations of this scenario as best you could. Families and couples stay together. Most personalities aren't far from what's underneath. People got better jobs, better haircuts for sure.
What Wanda doesn't realize is that her pain affects all of them. They feel her grief and loss, and they even have her nightmares. They're trapped, not just in the town, but in the personality she's created for them. Wanda builds an entire reality to avoid confronting the trauma she's experienced, and all of Westview is being tortured by it. Once she realizes how badly she's hurting her neighbors, she gives up the family she's created in order to set them free. She outsmarts Agatha and leaves her powerless, trapped in the town and in the role she chose, the nosy neighbor. This rewatch had me so ready to see where Marvel Television's Agatha All Along takes us. I cannot wait to check in on Westview after it's been 3 years away.
Damn it if Westview, New Jersey isn't charming as hell.
You can watch Marvel Studios' WandaVision on Disney Plus if you want to catch up before Agatha returns on September 18th.
You know, something else that stood out to me after our chat with Mary Livanos this week was how Agatha All Along is the first Marvel show or movie starring a Marvel character who has never had their own standalone solo comic book series.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty wild myself.
Right? And I think it's a testament to the character of Agatha Harkness and also, obviously, Catherine Hahn's portrayal of the character. Now, that said, this little factoid did make me realize how much of a blind spot I had on Agatha's comic book appearances. So I reached out to Marvel Comics editor Alanna Smith, who's the current editor on the Scarlet Witch comics, to sort of help me figure out where to start and walk me through some of Agatha's greatest comic book moments. So excited to be joined now on the podcast by Alanna Smith, who has been working in the Marvel Comics editorial department on some big stuff over the last few years, on Avengers and now on Scarlet Witch. Alanna, welcome to the official Marvel podcast.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you've been doing at Marvel?
Sure. So I'm an editor in the Avengers office, but I work on a bunch of Avengers adjacent titles. So I work on the upcoming West Coast Avengers, the upcoming Avengers Assemble, Scarlet Witch and Captain America, Thunderbolts. The nice thing about working in the Avengers office for as long as I have is that I've gotten to work on a bunch of different characters across the Marvel U, as opposed to specializing in just one group or one character. And that's been very fun.
Yeah. Currently, you are working on The Scarlet Witch. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on with that book? Because what a fun character and a fun time to be working on The Scarlet Witch.
It is. So in the current status quo of Scarlet Witch, Wanda has moved to a witchcraft shop in the Hudson Valley, and she has a door called the Last Door in her shop, which is magical. And basically, for anyone that has nowhere left to turn, the door appears to them and they can walk through and Wanda can help them. The idea being that she's been a person with nowhere else to turn, and she wants to be the person who's there for people who felt like she did. So she's kind of at the height of her power. She's kind of in a really good place emotionally, and, you know, her relationships are doing okay. And so it's kind of like, what does Scarlet Witch's life look like when she kind of has it together and she's doing a mission proactively instead of just kind of trying to survive the stressful experience of being Scarlet Witch.
Yeah, what a nice time for fans of Scarlet Witch. What a nice time for fans of Wanda.
There is also a lot of punching and a lot of big magic stuff.
No, but it's nice for Wanda fans to have a little bit of a moment where Wanda is kind of just in her power and enjoying.
She's doing good.
It's good for Wanda. So how does Agatha sort of fit into the Scarlet Witch's world right now in comics?
Wanda and Agatha kind of have a frenemy thing going on right now where, like, Wanda still has a deep well of feeling for her, and I think it's mutual, but she just kind of can't 100% trust Agatha because it's bitten her too many times in the recent past.
Yeah, okay, so that's kind of what we want to talk about right now, is this kind of deeper history of Agatha. A lot of people came to know Agatha through the WandaVision series. but she has been a part of the Marvel universe for such a long time. So one of the reasons we invited you here was to talk about some of the top 5 Agatha appearances, if people really want to get a feel for what she's about. So I wanted to go through some of these with you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this makes sense. First appearance of Agatha Harkness, which was in Fantastic Four number 94. And this is kind of like, it's weird because when you read the story, it almost comes off like Agatha could be just like a fun one-off kind of cheeky character.
Yeah. So she's introduced as Sue and Reed have just given birth to Franklin, and Franklin is a strange and powerful child, and so they're looking for a child-rearing specialist, and the child-rearing specialist turns out to be Agatha Harkness, and they kind of do this like coy little thing where it's like she looks very witchy, and she's in a spooky house, and she has a black cat, and it's kind of a Mary Poppins vibe a little bit, I feel like, where, she kind of shows up and they don't really know what to make of her, but then the Frightful Four attack, and then Agatha kind of sneakily gets rid of them, and it's all fine, and there's kind of like a winking ending where the thing is like, oh, is she a witch? And she's like, ho, 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 I'll never tell, like...
That's one of my favorite bits of this issue is like, that seems like a witch, and, Johnny's just like, come on, bud.
No.
Smarten up, dude.
She's a famous child-rearing specialist.
It's fun.
She's just super nanny. It's fine. But yeah, that's her first appearance. So really, she's introduced as like a babysitter / nanny to Franklin Richards.
But then we get into, once Franklin gets a little older, we get into sort of the beginning of the relationship between Agatha and Wanda here in 1974 in Avengers 127 and 128.
Yeah, so it's the wedding of Pietro and Crystal, or it's before it. It's not quite in these issues yet, I don't think. And so Wanda meets Agatha very briefly when they both arrive at the wedding. Wanda's kind of in a weird place because her and Quicksilver had a big fight, I think over her dating the Vision, if I remember correctly.
Pietro's not a big robot fan.
No, he's very bigoted against robots.
Yeah.
He's the worst. He's my favorite, but he's the worst. It's fine. So basically, they only meet very briefly in Avengers 127. And then in Avengers 128, there's some mysterious force that attacks, and the Avengers have to fight it off with, I think, the Fantastic Four, who are there as well.
Yes.
And it turns out Agatha basically says like, oh, that was an attack on me. Like a mystical force has been after me. Sorry that I brought this to the proceedings.
Yeah. And this is where like Agatha's being a witch and having magic powers like really comes to the forefront.
Yeah. You couldn't like brush it off with Ben Grimm here and be like, no, you're still like, she's doing a lot of magical powers in this one. But yeah, so the idea is that during these issues, she kind of comes to the conclusion that Franklin doesn't really need her anymore. Sue knows how to take care of him. He's doing well. So she wants to take on a new pupil, and she wants to take on the Scarlet Witch. And there's an interesting bit in here where Wanda actually says, like, it's just a name. I'm, like, not actually a witch. And I think I didn't fully register that she wasn't until this point where Agatha gets her to tap more into her magical talents. So basically Agatha is like, hey, I'd really like to train you in witchcraft because I think you have a lot of potential. And, Wanda's kind of like, you know what, that sounds cool. I would love to do that. And so that begins their mentorship relationship.
And so after that happens, we, a few years later in Fantastic Four 185, we sort of begin to get Agatha's origin story.
Yeah, so the idea is that it's revealed that Agatha comes from this coven of witches that lived in New Salem and basically have survived since the Salem witch trials by being secret from humanity and not engaging with them and keeping the great secret of witchcraft. And Agatha has kind of gone rogue by mingling with humans, sharing her knowledge, like spreading, the knowledge of witchcraft to other people. And so the way we enter into this is Agatha and Franklin have disappeared, and the Fantastic Four are looking for them, which leads them to New Salem. Agatha's weird son, Nicholas Scratch, is in charge of New Salem at this point. He captured Agatha and Franklin. He's got kids called the Salem Seven that are, I guess they would be Agatha's grandkids then. And so New Salem is trying to punish Agatha for her transgressions. The Fantastic Four help her out, and she banishes Nick Scratch. And then I think much later in Vision and the Scarlet Witch, the Salem 7 kill Agatha, which does not stay that way for very long because it's comics.
But then we get to Avengers West Coast in 89. Now we get into Agatha messing with Wanda's kids.
So basically, Agatha comes back in Avengers West Coast 50. In issue 51, she visits Wanda and Vision, who have kids at this point, but I think it's kind of ambiguous how that happened because Vision is a synthezoid. There's kind of limits to what can be done there.
But spoilers, there's nothing weird going on with it at all.
No, definitely nothing
Super
weird.
normal.
So she goes because she wants to understand what the deal is with this kid, and Wanda's like, there's nothing to understand. They're just my normal kids. And so Agatha says, like, they're definitely not normal, like, and she says, like, when you stop thinking about them, they disappear. So she's basically making the case that there's some construct of Wanda's mind and magic, essentially. And then the images are burned into my mind. They have a fight with a character named Master Pandemonium, who literally has the infant sons as hands.
Yes.
Like they're like merged with his hands, and it's incredible.
So Alanna, I have brought up a picture of Master Pandemonium and his boy fists. Can you explain
sure have.
for people who are listening, maybe, what Master Pandemonium looks like here?
So he is a pretty buff, pretty villainy looking guy in like red and gold with a cool cape, a cool mask with like horns on it and long black hair. But then his raised arms are just two suffering children from like the elbow up.
Yeah, he's got sick biceps.
So like their torsos and arms and heads are where his like elbows and hands would be, and they're just kind of wailing. It's incredible.
Can I say the children also somehow a little ripped? Because
they do look ripped. They kind of have got his muscles a little bit.
They have they don't have a six pack, these children, but they have the line down the middle, like the Summer Beach body line that somehow turns into Master Pandemonium's forearm.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's very good.
It's truly an inspired image.
It's honestly perfection.
Yeah, he's doing it. He's doing it well.
We love Master Pandemonium in this house.
We do. By the end of that, Agatha scrubs Wanda's memories so she'll forget that she had children. And she says that basically Wanda wanted a family so badly that she created them, almost like a magical, like hysterical pregnancy. I'm doing air quotes around hysterical.
Yes.
So then we pick this storyline up way later in Avengers 503 in the early 2000s. Wanda confronts Agatha about her two missing sons. She kills Agatha Harkness. So their tumultuous relationship continues, essentially. And Agatha's kind of shadiness of disappearing those kids earlier comes home to roost. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's such a huge turning point, obviously, not just for Wanda, but for the entire Marvel universe.
Yeah.
But then we do see Agatha's return in Scarlet Witch 2016, which is a series that I absolutely love.
So Wanda is kind of doing like these one and done adventures where she's investigating supernatural threats and she's trying to atone for all the things she's done in her past. Agatha kind of appears to her regularly as a mentor in like ghost form. So you get this cool ghost Agatha who's kind of advising her throughout the series. At some point in the series, she discovers that witchcraft is broken and her mission becomes fixing witchcraft, which leads her to journey with Agatha on the Witch's Road. It's kind of like one of those mystical, mysterious things that takes on different shapes. But at the basic level, it's a plane of existence where only witches can tread. It's not quite an underworld. It's not quite necessarily something sinister, but it's this weird in-between place that like only witches can go. And yeah, so basically through the course of that series, Wanda and Agatha kind of reconcile with each other. Agatha is eventually brought back to life, and they learn that their fates are intertwined. And so then that leaves Agatha newly alive, back doing stuff, and kind of in a better place with Wanda, at least for a bit.
Yeah, if you kill somebody, but then you bring them back to life, it's not exactly like it's not exactly like, well, we're cool now, right? But it's like at least a little better.
Yeah. It helps. It helps, I think.
Well, this is great. So these are 5 moments in Marvel history that you can read through, check out, and kind of get a better understanding of Agatha Harkness. Thank you so much, Alanna, for sharing these with us.
Yeah, thank you.
As we mentioned in our discussion with Alanna, Agatha Harkness has been many things throughout her Marvel Comics history. And while she's certainly served as an antagonist of sorts for the Scarlet Witch, she's been just as much of a mentor to her as well. In 2015's Scarlet Witch number 13, written by James Robinson, while on the Witch's Road with Agatha Harkness, Wanda Maximoff finds herself reflecting on her past. She tells Agatha that despite her past and her current situation, she feels better about herself with each day that goes by. And Agatha smiles and responds lovingly with the following. It's something I've been trying to drum into you forever. How no one is without their mistakes, except me. All you can do is learn from them and not try to make the same one twice. For instance, you've stopped listening to that annoying brother of yours, I'm happy to learn. And yes, you can atone, try to, but you look ahead. And in turn, the Scarlet Witch follows with, yes, like you say, one step or one day at a time.
Next week on the official Marvel podcast, we hear from Agatha All Along star Kathryn Hahn.
Just to be on stage with Patti LuPone. It's like a bucket list for me. So I was like, I can't believe that happened.
While you wait, make sure you subscribe to the podcast and tell a friend or two about us.
Yes, we are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Honestly, wherever you find podcasts, you can find us. Make sure to drop a review too, and let us know what you'd like to hear more of.
That's it for this week, though. This episode of the official Marvel podcast was hosted by Nick Carrillo and myself, Anthony Carboni, featuring Ray Lowe.
Our producer is Jasmine Estrada.
With help from Senior Manager of Audio Production and Development, Brad Barton, and Production Manager, Emily Godfrey.
Mixed by Zachary Goldberg.
Theme music by Ida Akbal.
Executive producers are Larissa Rosen and Jesse Berger.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.